In case anyone is wondering, Lawson and I are in our car. We are parked in the cemetery, the parking lot of the cemetery so that we can easily move forward with the burial from here. Fortunately, we have good cell service. I want to start by thanking all of you for being
Mom, you're muted. There you
There
go.
we go. Okay, right.
Thank you,
There we
Ron.
go. Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. Did you hear the part about us being in the car? Did everybody hear that part? Okay, good. I knew we were going to have glitches. It's okay. We're going to get through this. I'd like to start by thanking everybody for being here today. It's really amazing to have 75 logons, which means we have over 100 people here. And I just can't tell you how grateful I am. It's really difficult to do this remotely, but it is so heartwarming and buoying to see all of your loving faces on our screen and to know that you are with us today. Thank you, Rabbi Malik, for officiating, and also thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy busy holiday week schedule to hold a very important family discussion where we could plan this funeral. And you also called me just before Pesach started to discuss further details, even as you were heading to yet another funeral. I don't know how you've done everything you've done this week, but we're very grateful to you for that. I have some more thank yous that I really feel that I must share. And I want to start with my friends and my law partners. For the past more than 3 years, as my mother's health has deteriorated, you have cared and supported me every step of the way. You've always asked me for updates, comforting me when I was stressed, and encouraging me to take time to care for my mother and also for myself. And I'm very, very grateful to all of you for that. To my extended family, my family on Lawson's side, you have been so caring and kind, always asking about my parents and expressing your love for them. I know you'd planned to come to this funeral in person, and I'm very, very touched by that. It wasn't meant to be, but your presence today, especially during Easter, is deeply meaningful to me, and I thank you for that. To my Kolot Chayinu family, so many of you have regularly checked in to see how my parents are doing and to express words of support and wisdom. One member I wish I recall who gave me some of the most valuable advice, which was to remember that caring for someone with dementia is a marathon, not a sprint, and I should pace myself accordingly. Thank you, all of you, for that. Closer to home, I frequently hear stories of family rifts that grow wider with adversity, and I'm so blessed to have had the opposite. Dad, you cared for Mom in every way you could, and you've always expressed your appreciation to your children and children-in-law, as well as the amazing caretakers to whom we owe a debt of gratitude. Steve will be naming them later. Steve and Nini, this has truly been a team effort. One very powerful example is that when Mom needed to be moved from rehab, you did the research about the available nursing homes, and then Steve came to New Jersey so he and I could spend the day together looking at them. As a result, Mom landed in the right place, where she was very well cared for through the end. And I feel so much better about Mom's last months because of what you did. And I also want to thank you for the beautiful program that you did today. To my Ritz nephews, Jacob and Ben, you've checked in with me frequently and been supportive, and I deeply appreciate that. My children, and my children-in-law, I consider you my children, all 6 of you. You've supported me at every turn. You've gone to New Jersey with me to visit your grandparents. You've always asked me how you can help, and you've just been there when I needed you, and I love you so much, and I thank you. Lawson, my parents always said you were their favorite son-in-law. For those of you who don't know, Lawson is also their only son-in-law. But you are the best partner I could ever ask for. On the scores of trips we've made to New Jersey in the past few years, you never once complained. And you always found a way to turn those visits into something positive. I'm just so lucky to have you in my life. There's some additional very important thank yous that Steve will be offering, and please know that I share in those as well. Turning now to Mom. This is a raw time. Many of us are feeling vulnerable and frightened because of the pandemic. We've all experienced losses, whether of people, employment, or just plain freedom. I'm hoping that the gathering here today in community and hearing my mother's story of strength, perseverance, and success will help us in some small way to ease everyone's pain and to carry us through this very difficult time. Most here knew Mom or have heard her story, but I feel duty-bound to recount her early years today because her piece of history is important to pass down. She felt that responsibility most strongly, and I believe that telling her story today and into the future is the best honor that I can give her. As one of my children correctly pointed out, Mom was more than just her story as a refugee, and I agree, and Steve will be covering some of the later years of Mom's life. Edith Wolff was born on August 14, 1930 in Vienna, Austria. She was the only child of Max and Theophila, who was known as Teenie Wolff. In her early years, Mom lived with her parents and maternal aunt Stella. In an autobiography that she wrote us in 1995, from which Steve quoted and the rabbi just quoted a little while ago, Mom wrote that her life began in a small walk-up apartment in a poor, outlying, working-class district. Since there was no money for toys and very little for clothing, she wrote, space was not a problem, typical of her sense of humor. There was no bathroom in the apartment. She recalled a single smelly toilet out in the hall that served all the families on that floor. For years, Mom used a potty and was bathed in a large enamel tub. Her parents went to the public bathhouse once a week, a far cry from where she landed and where her children have landed. Mom recalled her early years as being quite content and happy, although she did not like all the attention focused on her as a single child. This is a perspective that she shared with my father, who also grew up as an only child. Mom had two mothers, both my grandmother and my great aunt Stella, and she sometimes found that burdensome. But she felt secure and stable, and she was a very outgoing child, a quality that later served her very well. Mom was a good student, and her mother planned for her to go to university. In 1938, Hitler's army marched into Vienna. Mom wrote that they were welcomed with hysterical delight by the Viennese people. My grandfather, who came from poverty in Poland, was a craftsman who made beautiful wallets and handbags, and he had built a successful leather goods business. The Nazis took that away from him and began arresting him, sometimes making him scrub the streets. Soon, Mom had to leave her school and go to a Jewish school further away. Mom's Aunt Stella learned about the Kindertransport. For those who don't know, British Jews organized trains from Germany, Austria, and elsewhere that brought Jewish children to Great Britain to save them from the death camps. My grandfather was in jail for the second time, but Aunt Stella persuaded my grandmother that they had to get Mom out. Mom always said that even at the tender age of 8, she knew that they had to leave or they would die. So in December 1938, my grandmother bravely took Mom to the train station. Aunt Stella, who had stood in line all night long to arrange for our mother's passage, could not bring herself to go. Mom wrote that many parents and children were in tears, but not my grandmother or my mother. Mom said that our grandmother set an example, and because of our grandmother's composure and strength, the leave-taking was bearable, Mom wrote, adding that she absolutely realized she might never see her mother again. As a child, I often thought about whether I would have had the inner strength as an 8-year-old to endure what my mother experienced. Once I had children of my own, I began to ask myself a different question. And I always have trouble getting this question out. Would I have had the strength of conviction to put my own children on that train by themselves? I once shared this thought with Mom, and typical of her stiff upper lip outlook, she brushed it away, saying her mother knew she had no choice. That was the end of that conversation. After a lengthy trip, my mother and the other children arrived at a cold, damp summer camp in England. Remember, it was December, where she was fortunately selected as one of 25 children to take a train by themselves to Liverpool. These kids spoke no English, but somehow they transferred trains and arrived in the right place. Their mom met Izzy and Blanche Karp, who among other Jewish families were there to select a child to foster. You may recall I said Mom was outgoing. She volunteered to the Karps in German that she was well behaved and a good student. And fortunately, since they spoke Yiddish, they got the gist, and they agreed to take Mom in. I should add here that our family has remained lifelong friends with the Karps, and Steve is going to speak with them later, but the 3 Karp grandchildren are all, I think, are all on the screen right now, and I thank you so much for joining us. Mom settled into life with the Karps and quickly learned English, which she proudly recounted she spoke fluently and without an accent within a year. She did well in school and was treated to luxuries that she had never known before, including a housekeeper and lots of food. She also, for the first time, had siblings. As the war grew closer, the Karps moved the family to Wales to avoid the bombing in Liverpool. They lived with the daily dread that Germans would invade, a feeling that I don't think anybody on this call has ever really had to live with. Time doesn't permit the full recounting of the story, but in short, in late 1940, my grandfather had gotten to London on a men's transport and was expecting a visa to the US where he would take Mom. Mom wrote this in her biography, her autobiography. So I said goodbye to the family I had come to feel was my own. And with my suitcase in one hand, my doll in the other, and a purse with some money, I boarded the train alone for the trip to London. I was 10 years old. Mrs. Karp, who had come to see me off, asked another passenger to keep an eye on me. I was to be met at Euston Station by someone from Bloomsbury House. When I got to the station, no one was there to meet me. I wanted to get out of the station as fast as possible because London was being bombed day and night, and one of the main targets were the railroad stations. The glass roof of the station was almost non-existent from all the shrapnel and hits the station had already taken. The platform emptied out, and I was virtually alone and fearful of an air raid. Dragging my suitcase and clutching my doll and money, I came out of the station, saw a cab, and asked him to take me to Bloomsbury House. I explained that I had money to pay the fare, but I suspect the driver would have taken me anyway. It was like that in London during the Blitz. Mom spent her days in a hostel while her father used his leather working craft to aid the war effort. He had actually previously been interned on the Isle of Man as an enemy alien once the war started, but they released him quickly due to his skills. The two spent their nights in a bomb shelter, except that Mom developed scarlet fever and was excluded from the shelter. So she and Dad had to stay upstairs for many nights during the bombing, while her father nursed her back to health. As a small example of my mom's PTSD, I can recall when I was a child, Mom becoming very tense whenever the local first aid squad set off a siren. It became too dangerous to cross the Atlantic with the U-boats patrolling, and then Mom's and our grandfather's visas expired. So Mom returned alone to the Karps in Wales. Unfortunately, life had deteriorated for them, and Mom had to move to a youth hostel where she was perpetually hungry. Eventually, new visas came through. Mom returned to London, and this time she and her father successfully crossed the Atlantic. They spent some frustrating weeks on Ellis Island, waiting their turn to be cleared. But eventually, the entire family was reunited at the office of HIAS. Someone next to us has just started their car. Are people still able to hear? Just thumbs up. Okay, good. So their entire family, after some frustrating weeks on Ellis Island, waiting for their turn to be cleared, they were eventually, the entire family, reunited at the offices of HIAS. My grandmother and great aunt Stella, each of whom had their own escape story, had preceded them. In a few moments, I will turn this over to Steve to pick up with the rest of Mom's life story, but I have just a few thoughts I'd like to share first. Judaism teaches that lessons are handed down l'dor v'dor, from generation to generation. As you can tell, Mom taught Steve and me, Mom learned to be self-sufficient and resourceful at a very young age. She taught Steve and me that we needed to be able to do the same. I also believe that Steve and I have instilled the value of self-reliance in our own children. Unfortunately, there's a darker side to this generational transfer. Mom's traumas were deeply held within her, and I have no doubt that they were passed on to Steve and me. I really hope that we have been able to harness those harmful forces and reduce their destructive effect on the next generation. Today, as this generation of survivors is nearly gone, I'm going to have trouble with this part, but I'm going to get through it. I also remember the many immigrants who comprised my parents' inner circle of friends and became surrogate aunts and uncles to us. Sue and Eric Stern, Edie and Kurt Osinski, Margot and Lenny Katz, and Sandy and Hans Singer, among others. Each of them made a successful life here, contributing meaningfully to our country's history of being built by immigrants. Because I was surrounded by so many immigrants, I did not learn until I was in my 40s that only 10% of the kinder transport children ever saw a parent again. I remain blown away by that fact. When my mother wrote about how lucky she was right. My grandparents were fortunate that they had distant relatives here who could sponsor them. So many more Jews were unable to escape because of our country's and other countries' restrictive immigration policies. Nobody wanted those unwashed and uneducated Jews. Today, you can substitute Muslims or Mexicans for Jews and see the same hateful policies carried out. Mom's story and those of my immigrant aunts and uncles are powerful illustrations of what's wrong with our current immigration practices. No matter the ups and downs of her adult life, Mom always believed that others had it worse than she did, and she was deeply moved by those who, as she said, were less fortunate. She and my father were big believers in charitable giving, another value that they passed on to their children. I also firmly believe that each of my parents' children and grandchildren has found a way to work toward making the world a better place. Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, in no small part due to my mother's and father's values. Mom thought of herself as an optimist. Personally, I found this comical because in my experience, she could find the negative in just about anything. And she always articulated that often when we really didn't want her to. She would always vocally worry about the weather and parking, for example. And it became a family joke, admittedly at my mother's expense, that even on a beautiful day, it could still rain. Lawson and I just shared this joke about 5 minutes before we got in the car here today. Having taken some time to reflect on this, I think Mom always anticipated the worst to protect herself. If the worst happened, she would avoid the pain of disappointment. And if it didn't happen, she would have the pleasure of escaping whatever downside she had feared. In an odd upside to the loss caused by dementia, Mom's anxiety about all things simply disappeared. That was a true blessing. Mom loved her grandchildren greatly. I still remember how excited she was when her first grandchild, Ellen, was born. Ellen was a pretty big newborn, and Mom rejoiced, saying, "I always wanted an apple-cheeked baby." I watched her delight in holding each of Ellen, Ben, Marissa, David, and Jacob as babies. She may not have been the grandma who sat on the floor and played with you, but each of you gave her immeasurable pleasure throughout her life. And she was proud of all of us, even if she didn't always express it. I believe she considered her successful children and grandchildren her greatest rebuke to the Nazis. Mom lived her life, a long life, and she lived it well, including a loving marriage for nearly 68 years. As she would say, we should all be so lucky. Thank you. I think Steve will speak now.
Thank you, Sue. First, I'd like to add my thanks to all of you for joining us. And thank you, Rabbi, for your help at a particularly challenging time. Picking up the thread of Mom's life from where Sue left off, the rest of the story is somewhat more ordinary, but if you think about it, that's the real triumph. In 1943, Mom, her two parents, and her Aunt Stella eventually settled together into a one-bedroom walk-up apartment in the Bronx. Mom recalled she had attended at least 7 schools over her 4.5 years in England, so some academic topics fell between the cracks. The transition to high school is rarely easy, and it was especially challenging in Mom's circumstances. After graduating high school, she started working. Several years later, Mom and her friend Miriam went to a dance at the 92nd Street Y, where they met Jerry Ritz and Al Moskowitz, who were also friends with each other. And the two couples remained friends throughout the subsequent decades. Dad proposed on New Year's Eve, and they were married in June 1952, moving into an apartment in nearby Parkchester. Nearly 68 years of a deeply loving, devoted, complementary, and strong partnership were ahead. But of course, they couldn't begin to imagine it. At that time, Mom was 21 years old. Sue was born in 1956, and I was born in 1959. In 1962, we moved to New Jersey, where Sue and I grew up. As you heard, in New Jersey, Mom and Dad joined other families to create Temple Beth Am. What an accomplishment. The temple has been part of their lives and vice versa ever since. When I was in 4th grade and about 1 year older than Mom was when she was on the kinder transport, Mom felt a strong pull to go back to work. Part-time at first. She managed the office of a local small business from that time until she retired in her 60s. After retirement, Mom volunteered in a women's shelter and at Planned Parenthood, and Mom and Dad traveled extensively. We always said that Mom and Dad set a great example for retirement. Along the way, Sue and I found the most wonderful partners I could ever imagine, Lawson and Nini. And Mom and Dad fell in love with them quickly too. For a time, Mom was wondering if she'd ever see grandchildren, but patience was soon rewarded 5 times over. Ellen, Ben, Marissa, David, and Jacob. If you think back to Mom's solitary time on the kinder transport, and then fast forward to a noisy house full of kids when we would all visit, the contrast is remarkable. The smile on Mom's face was unmistakable. And the story folded back onto itself. In the mid-1980s, before I met Nini, though Sue already knew her at this point, Sue, Lawson, and I met in Vienna and visited the apartment building you heard Sue describe. I have a picture of Sue outside my mother's school nearby. A few years later, Mom and Dad visited, and since then, so has Ellen. Now, I've skipped over many details for reasons I'll explain in a minute. I'd like to pivot here to share some of my feelings today and then tell a few parts of the rest of the story in the form of reminiscences instead of factual history. As you can see, Mom was incredibly lucky, and she clearly felt that in a positive way. So along with our grief, my overwhelming feeling right now is one of gratitude. I'm grateful that we continue to keep in touch with generations of the Karp family, some of whom have joined us today by Zoom. The Karps truly saved our family, and we are part of each other's extended family. We feel a debt of gratitude we can never fully repay, and we hope that we can all find ways to pay it forward. And what a gift Mom gave us with her written memories of childhood experiences and struggles. I'm grateful for each of you in the large family Mom and Dad built together, starting just with the 2 of them, all of those grandchildren now. You know what that means to both Mom and Dad. Ellen, Ben, Marissa, David, and Jacob, I think you each know how much she loves you. I'm grateful for the true and lasting friendships Mom and Dad had. In addition to those already mentioned, the friendships with the Alexanders, the Hineses, and many families in Temple Beth Am were particularly deep and important. They were always there for each other, especially at every major life event I can recall. Sue and I would not be where we are today without those friendships, and we know they all treasured each other. Sue and Lawson, Nini and I are grateful for all the things you have done and continue to do for Mom and Dad. Yes, we all pull together, but proximity has placed a special demand on the 2 of you. And the time, effort, and attention you give are yet another expression of your love and devotion. I remember what Mom did for the previous generation, and there's a special bond of experience you share. All of us are grateful to the aides who have helped Mom and Dad in recent years, as Sue mentioned, particularly Dee, Felicia, Irene, and Amanda. I am grateful for all the everyday moments together over a long lifetime, and I'm especially grateful for everything Mom did for each of us. I know you're all thinking about these too. She gave us a good life in every sense that matters. And I'm grateful for the many good years we shared. Given her mother's much earlier onset of dementia, Mom was very lucky, and therefore so were we. Mom was only significantly affected when she was well into her 80s. This final period has been very difficult for all of us. Dementia is often called the long goodbye for reasons you all understand. When death finally comes, it is surely sad, but it is also a release to let our attention float back to personal memories spanning a full and loving life, seeing the whole person again. I had a glimpse of this last summer when I happened to look at pictures of Mom and Dad from about 8 years ago, and I was surprised. Rather than feeling sadness for what had been lost to dementia, there was a feeling of joy and comfort. There's the Mom we know and love. Nice to be with you again, Mom. So I'll let my mind wander back to just a few of the many personal memories now, in the hope that these will help open each of you to explore your own memories in your own ways. As the wise Jewish saying goes, and that I appreciate more deeply as time goes on, may her memory be a blessing to you too. I'll focus here on a few memories of a few surprising moments, those precious times when you really learn something important. When I was about 12, we heard Gloria Steinem now famously say on TV, if men could get pregnant, abortion would be a sacrament. I started to roll my eyes, 12 years old, but then suddenly I heard Mom say emphatically, that's right. And that gave me something to think about. When I was much younger, probably around 5 or 6, someone on our block started using what we now call the N-word. We had no idea what it meant, but kids giggled when they said it. Mom heard me say it at home, and when she heard me say it at home, she immediately stopped what she was doing, sat me down, and very quietly asked me where I'd heard it. Then she said, that's a terrible, hurtful word, and you should never say it. Only over time could I even begin to understand, but that was an important moment. Similarly, Mom always hated hearing someone call someone else trash. No person is trash, Mom taught us. There were a few popular TV shows and movies that, to my surprise, because everyone else could, we could not see them. For example, there was a TV show called I Dream of Jeannie, and Mom said, you're not going to watch a wife walking around the house wearing a bikini, calling her husband master. And of course, Hogan's Heroes was on the list. She also did not let me see James Bond movies until I was older for reasons you can guess. She was way ahead of her time. Another surprise for me was how deeply affected Mom was when her dear friend Sue Stern died so young. I don't think Mom ever fully processed the loss. And Dad, the look on Mom's face when she was dancing with you, the love was so touching and strong. She was so happy in those moments. Finally, I'll share a few other points not typically in any history that you might or might not already know. Mom loved to laugh, and she thoroughly enjoyed humor. From the giggles while reading Shouts and Murmurs in the New Yorker to a loud laugh and a clap, she would throw her head back. When telling a funny story, these were great everyday moments. Dad always knew how to make Mom laugh, and she loved them. Mom and Dad were a great team in many ways. They held each other to a high standard and always in a supportive manner. They helped each other be better versions of themselves. Mom took such great pleasure in clever song lyrics, particularly by Cole Porter, but others as well. Her delight each time she sang along was obvious. She also appreciated the great artistry and effort necessary to make something look easy. Mom wrote that in her 4.5 years there, she fell in love with Britain and its people, and she passed that love on to us too. And then there's our dog Muffy. Mom came up with the name Muffin, I recall, and they had a very special connection. So Mom understood love, and she felt love. She would often talk with us about the importance of feeling comfortable with yourself and then with your primary relationships. She knew love, and she knew friendship. Is there anything more important? She left a great legacy. She gave us a good life with good values, tried to do good. There's the mom we know and love. Nice to be with you again. Her memory is a blessing to us, and I am grateful.
Thank you to Steve and Sue for sharing those beautiful memories, many of which are new to us. Many of us heard the story of the younger life, but not the later life that wasn't in the walls of Temple Beth Am. So I thank you, Steve, and I thank you, Sue. I think your mom's memory for sure is a blessing and will continue to be so for all of us, for your family, for your extended family, and for her Temple Beth Am family. Got a little choked up from your words. I'd now like to just add a couple of personal reflections by some of the members of Temple Beth Am, where Edith and Jerry were founding members and regular shul goers on Shabbat morning until just a couple of years ago when their health began to deteriorate. Elaine Singer writes the following: Edith and Jerry were founding members and very involved. Jerry was one of our earliest presidents. They were best friends with Rhoda and Al Alexander and were also good friends with Audrey and Sid Rabinowitz, Murray and Trudy Mark, Sylvia and Max Myers, Bess and Marty Blumenthal, Mel and me. That's Elaine. Edith was in my book club, the one that Sandy Percy was in charge of, and always had very insightful and valid opinions to contribute to the discussions. She was a real mensch. She was bright, caring, soft-spoken, and a delight to be with. Trying to find Elaine to put her on the screen. I don't see her. I saw her before. Oh, here we go. Here's Elaine. Okay, so those were Elaine's words. These next words are from Phyllis Brooks. Oh, Phyllis, I just passed. I saw Phyllis. Here we go. So Phyllis wrote that she and Perry had the pleasure of doing their first trip to Israel with Edith and Jerry in July of 1992, and she made it extra special for the Brooks. She was warm, caring, welcoming, and very inclusive to everyone. Phyllis said, "I always enjoyed our little talks, even after the trip." And then Alice Grunn. Alice wrote the following: Edie was smart and outspoken. You had the feeling that she gave much thought to a subject before expressing her opinion. In a way, she was low-key, not flashy, but with a lot of substance. I felt she had character, a strong morality, and she was a lovely person, always with a smile to greet you. I remember Edie and Jerry's son, Steve, and my oldest daughter, Michelle, shared a bar bat mitzvah weekend date. Michelle was Friday night, Steve was Shabbat morning. We splurged on the bima flowers, dozens of roses. And Joanne Abraham wrote, Joanne, there's Joanne. Edith was elegant. No matter what she wore, and she dressed well, she looked elegant. She was always gracious. We, Stu and Joanne, met the Ritzes when we joined the synagogue as newlyweds 53 years ago. The first thing I noticed was that they shared a puckish sense of humor. I remember one particular discussion when a bunch of us were discussing whether we would allow our unmarried children to live with a person of the opposite sex. As you might imagine, most quite firmly stated that they would never condone such behavior. Well, Edith listened carefully and calmly until everyone else had said their piece several times. And then she said, maybe because I grew up in Europe where people are more sophisticated, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And that ended the discussion. Edith Ritz will be missed, not only by her family, but also by everyone whose life she touched. We are all deeply saddened that Edith will no longer be with us in a physical sense, but we can keep her memory alive in a spiritual sense. As Steve pointed out, and Sue as well, in their remarks, their mom left behind a valuable legacy. And I'll just mention a few things that were not mentioned by Steve and Sue. For starters, there were some foods that she was known for during her lifetime, many of which are still in use by her family. There were her Thanksgiving recipes of sweet potato pie and cranberry sauce. Sue also remembers her mom's amazing blintzes, as well as her pepper steak. Steve fondly remembers the rugelach, the best rugelach as he referred to them, which they sometimes ate before the holidays. Apparently, Edith tried to slow down the pre-holiday rugelach consumption by freezing them. However, the members of the Ritz family, every one of them, and completely separately, discovered that these tasty treats were also delicious straight out of the freezer. There was a big laugh when they all confessed, but this was only after Edith noticed that the bags in the freezer seemed less full. On a more serious note, Edith left that very valuable written legacy, part of which Sue quoted. In December of 1995, Edith had the foresight to write an 11-page memoir that begins with the following words, and I quote, "Because memory dims and accuracy fades, and because I regret not questioning my parents and aunts about the events in their lives and their feelings, I decided to leave some record of a life that started in a time and place afar, removed from the present." To her children and grandchildren, Edith also passed on an appreciation of great writing and great theater. She also transmitted to them a deep sense of caring and responsibility to people who are what she called less fortunate. And as Sue and Steve mentioned, she also taught them the importance of tzedakah, giving charitably, generously, and regularly to others. Also the value of tikkun olam, making the world a better place, repairing the world. Edith also conveyed to her family members the value of Judaism, as well as the importance of a good, primary, loving relationship. And this was a value that she transmitted not only in words, but also by the personal example provided by Edith and Jerry. In Jerry's words, and I quote, "We shared a very special love together. I appreciated Edith all of our lives. I can close my eyes and I can almost reach out and touch her. I can see her and feel her, every detail. I adored her, and I know how much she loved me." We can also keep Edith's memory alive by conjuring up some of the many adjectives that come to mind when we think about her. And these are just a few: gentle, kind, forgiving, but not always of herself, caring, loving, warm, welcoming, inclusive, bright, intellectually curious, insightful, grateful, thoughtful, calm, elegant, gracious, outspoken, and soft-spoken. And furthermore, in describing his beloved wife, Jerry also had this to say about her, the love of his life. "She didn't have a mean bone in her body." And he also said, "It is amazing that someone who grew up under such hard circumstances ended up this soft, wonderful creature." I would now like to invite all of you to join me in reading an excerpt from the book of Kohelet, Ecclesiastes. It's in the funeral program. I will try to put it up on the screen for those of you who didn't get it ahead of time. It's in English here. I will read the first couple of lines in Hebrew before we start the English, And then after we finish the English, I will read the last few lines in Hebrew as well. So I will begin. I'm actually going to unmute everybody for this. If you want to remain muted, you can mute yourself, but right now I'm unmuting everybody.
Unmuting. Lost it.
Right.
Okay, good at this.
It's back on the screen, okay? So I'll start with the Hebrew. לכל זמן ועת לכל חפץ תחת השמיים. עת
You know,
ללכת
it's interesting.
ועת
We
למות. עת לטעת ועת
hired a woman.
Okay, guys, I hear some people who have echoes. If you have two computers, why don't we turn them off? If not, I'm going to have to mute everybody again. So I hear some people who have two
Mute
computers.
everybody.
Yeah. Rabbi, I'm going to encourage you to mute everybody.
Please,
Yeah.
unmute us when we speak. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
לכל זמן ועת לכל חפץ תחת השמיים, עת ללדת ועת למות, עת לטעת ועת לעקור נטוע. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to uproot. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to tear down, and a time to build. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones, and a time to gather them. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search, and a time to give up. A time to keep, and a time to throw away. A time to tear, and a time to mend. A time to be silent, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time for war, and a time for peace. Et le'ehov ve'et lisno, et milchama ve'et shalom. May the memory of Edith Ritz, the gentle and graceful woman with the strong sense of morality and great sense of humor, the good listener, devoted wife, mother, and grandmother, be for an eternal blessing. May the memory of Etka bat Moshe v'Teofila be for a bracha. If you're in a place where you can stand and you would like to stand, please rise for the special memorial prayer for Chol HaMoed Pesach. Eloah Slichot. I'll recite it in English first, and then I'll do it in Hebrew. Eloah Slichot, God of forgiveness, you who are gracious and compassionate, patient and abundantly kind, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, to the soul of Edith Ritz, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful God, we ask that you remember all the worthy and righteous deeds that she performed. May our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Eloah selichot chanun v'rachum erech apayim v'rav chesed hamtzeh kaparat pesha v'hakravat yesha umenucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechinah. B'malot kedoshim u'teorim, kezahar harakia masirim, et nishmat אתגה בת משה ותאופלה פילה, שהלכה לעולמה. ענה בעל הרחמים, זכרה לה לטובה כל זכיותיה וצדקותיה בארצות החיים, ופתח לה שערי צדק ואורה, שערי חמלה וחנינה. בסתר כנפיך הסתירה לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים, את נשמתה אדוני ונחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר Amen. The burial is now going to continue in a little bit. I'm going to put up on the screen the picture of, there's a nice picture of Edith, okay? And some of you may wish to get off the call right now. Some of you will stay. I will keep the Zoom meeting open for those who want to watch the burial. We need to give Sue and Lawson some time to get to the cemetery, and regarding Shiva, it will be postponed until after the Passover holiday, as is customary. And because of the COVID-19 pandemic, any Shiva visits will have to be done virtually. I encourage all of you to reach out to Jerry, Sue, Steve, everyone who's a family member, to offer your condolences. At the cemetery, we're going to recite some more Psalms, Eloah Slichot, and then after the burial, Sue and Steve and Jerry will have an opportunity to recite Mourner's Kaddish, and those of us who are still on the Zoom meeting will have an opportunity to say the traditional Jewish words of comfort to them. I'm going to now just put Susan on if she wants to say anything.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you so much. So we're already in the parking lot. We just have to drive around to meet up with the funeral, the hearse. They were supposed to be here at between 12:30 and 12:45, so we're doing really beautifully on timing. And it's supposed to be 1 o'clock burial. So I'm going to leave my computer on. We're going to drive around, and I'll periodically pipe up and give people updates on where we stand. But I'm assuming we'll be driving out to the graveside. I mean, we're here, but we'll be driving out to the graveside at approximately 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Steve, did you want to say anything?
Thank you very much. I know you all have a lot of thoughts, and I wish we had time to share all of them. But we feel your love and your thoughts, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Rabbi, your mic is open if you so you're typing. Just so you're aware.
Yes, what I was typing, if you didn't see it, in the chat, it says, if anyone would like to share any memories in the chat, please do. I know I'm a loud typist. My apologies.
Also, if people need to get up and stretch, that's perfectly fine. Hope people will feel free to do that.
All right, just so everybody knows, we're lined up, the hearse is here and we're lined up behind the hearse. So I'm assuming we're ready for 1 o'clock. We're just waiting for the go, the signal, the go signal.
We are waiting for the, right behind the hearse, waiting for the director up there to tell us to proceed.
You know,
Hi, Rabbi. We're wondering if you could let us all go back to gallery view so people could see each other for a moment. That might be nice. Anybody who wants to look around and knows how to use the gallery view on Zoom.
Okay, is it on there now?
Yep, let's see. Yep, we're good. There we go. Thank you so much.
Can't hear you, Susan.
I actually wasn't intending to be heard.
Oh, okay. Now I can hear you.
But I'll say what I was saying, which is I'm looking at all your beautiful faces and just really overwhelmed with the love and the caring and people I've known all my life and people I've only known, a year or so. Just a wide variety, and thank you so much for being here with us. It's just it's really very meaningful. Thank you.
Your mother was a wonderful person.
Thank you. Who is speaking? Please say.
Elaine.
Oh, Elaine Singer. How are you, Elaine?
Okay, thank you.
Good. It's really nice to see your face.
You too. Too.
Elaine was the first female president of our congregation, I would like to add.
Not enough of that.
Hey, I think it's an important part of history.
It is. And I see Emily and Richard Alexander, who I haven't seen in so long. Such a pleasure to see you. How's Nico?
We're all good, thank you.
Good. He must be out of college already, right?
He's a senior,
Oh, a senior where?
Connecticut College,
Connecticut?
Little Connecticut.
Okay. I know your parents, Al and Rhoda, were such good friends with the Ritzes, spent holidays together and everything.
Absolutely. I still miss them.
Yeah, well, maybe they're meeting up in heaven someplace, having their own Passover Seder or something.
I
hope so. Is the rabbi on the way to the cemetery or not?
No, she's going to officiate virtually.
I'm at Temple Beth Am, real Temple Beth Am, not virtual. Real Ark opening.
But I was a little confused. I thought the funeral actually took place the other day, but I guess I was mistaken.
No,
Mm.
And that's my guess. That's my guess, because each one is half an hour.
Everyone's looking at the dog.
He needed a lap to sit in. He's pretty needy, so.
Aw,
Thank you.
Oh,
yes. I'm glad he's there to kiss you when I can't.
oh.
Yes, me too.
Mhm.
Susan, I saw a message today from Ellen and Herb Shore.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's
Their
sweet.
condolences. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. That's very sweet. I appreciate that.
yeah. I don't think they knew about the virtual service. It was too late for me to let them know.
Well, thank you. Please send them our regards.
I will.
What I'll need lights for. Could be that we're called over to move the casket. We'll see. Really.
We'll see. We have plenty of those. There have been so many amazing stories of support for us in this time. And one example is I realized last night as I was getting ready for today that I might end up having to use a public restroom or something like that, and that I didn't have any disposable gloves. So I posted on my block listserv, can anybody spare some disposable gloves? And within, and I explained why. Within 20 minutes, 3 neighbors had stopped by and 5 more had volunteered. I mean, it's really it's just so heartwarming to see people so loving and supportive in this difficult time.
David Chadburn, I sent you a text about the connection with Dad, if you haven't noticed your phone.
And so when we get out there, we're going to see whether we can use the laptop to I'll reverse the camera or maybe set it up depending on where I can and see whether we'll be able to give you all a view of the burial. I just don't know yet. I won't know till I get out there, but that's going to be the effort. Oh. Just turn the laptop around. You can't reverse the camera on the laptop. There is no camera on the other side.
Marcia, can I get some water, please?
Yeah. You can talk.
I can talk.
Oh, great.
Yes, hi, Grandpa.
Hi, Dad.
Grandpa.
Hi.
We can hear you.
Well, good. I at first I was reluctant to participate in this service. I am now so grateful for the fact that I did. And to all of you, it really was a very, very special time. And to hear all the reminiscences, particularly about my wonderful Edith. And then to hear the voices and the remembrances of Elaine and the others from the temple. Really, really wonderful to hear them. And certainly to Lisa Malik. I'm totally grateful to you for being here for us today. And to our family, I just have to say how wonderful it is and how much I appreciate everything. I wish I had the words, but all I can say to you is I'm truly in love with you all and grateful to you all. And I guess that's all I can say to you.
We love you.
And thank you again. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Grandpa. We love you.
We love you.
Love you, and it's great to hear your voice, and I'm so glad you joined us.
Thank
So
you
glad.
very much.
Good to hear you, Jerry.
We're there with you.
Yeah, it was wonderful experience. Yeah. Thank you very, very much. I can't tell you how much deeply I appreciate all this.
That's great. And if you move your iPad down a little bit, we'll be able to see your face.
There you go.
That's no big deal.
There we go.
Here I am.
Someone
Good
love that
God.
face. Fantastic.
Dracula is alive.
There he
But
is.
in any event, this miserable old guy loves you all very, very much.
And we love you too. It looks
Right.
like there's a little bit of activity ahead of us, so I'm hoping that will move us along. It's just 1
The
o'clock
record,
now, so
my face is pretty much flattened again from the dental problems.
good.
That's
And
great. We're glad to hear it.
I'm okay.
Great.
Good. I'm glad you're feeling better.
I don't look very okay, but I am.
I think you look
Yeah.
great.
You look great.
Thank you. And
Likewise.
oh yeah, you, my dear, should go to see an ophthalmologist.
They're all closed right now, Dad.
So, Steve, all of you, so grateful to have had you here and to have heard you all.
That's great.
What else is there for me to say? I love you all.
We love you too.
And thank you.
Love you.
Love you, Grandpa.
The memories with Edith, I think, thank you. Very especially precious to me to hear people talking about Edith and the things that she used to say, and what a sweet, gentle, wonderful woman she was. I was a very, very fortunate man. And thank you again. What else is that?
Oh, Lawson was just talking with the driver of the hearse, and he's coming back, so we'll see what he has to say. What'd you learn, honey?
The funeral director is signing us in inside right now,
Oh.
and momentarily we'll be out.
All right.
And we'll be heading up.
I don't know if you heard that. The funeral director is signing us in, and as soon as that is achieved, we will be heading out.
Okay. Well, the actual burial thing is something we're not going to be able to do, of course. But
Well, actually, it's my hope that you will be able to see it if you wish to. We're going to see what we can set up when we get out there.
right. What's most important is in my mind, I see it. I really, really do.
Good.
And makes me grateful. And to see Steve, Sue, and to see Nene and Lawson, my close family. It's a wonderful thing.
Lawson, do not take any papers without gloves on your hands, please. Thank you. Just put on your gloves. I thought you had them.
I left them right there in the middle of the thing.
Okay, hang on a second, guys.
I'm sorry. Sorry for the way. They fell right off.
Take care of yourselves. That's the most important
Yep,
thing
we're
now.
being careful.
That's Susan.
Hello.
The daughter of the priest, and I'm the son-in-law. Okay, so we're the rabbi's online. So only you have to wear a creator. Right. Your mother, correct?
Correct.
You wear it above your heart.
Yep.
On the left side. I can wear it on the right side. Right? You don't have to wear it on. Yeah, but I could wear it on the right side. Right. Okay. Right. Okay, and this is just your card. Okay. Kaddish on the back. Okay, great. Okay. Okay. Right. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else that we need to do?
When we get to the site, how is the coffin being moved to the burial to the grave?
So what'll happen is the foreman will come by one of the red trucks to take the hearse up first. You folks are gonna stay back. They're gonna lower the casket. Once the gentlemen walk away, then we'll come back, bring you up to the graveside. You'll see that the casket's already inside the grave lowered. And you can start the service from there.
Excuse me, do we have to, I'd rather be there when the casket's lowered. Is that all right?
Unfortunately, they want to keep.
They want
to keep their distance.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay, I understand.
Thank you.
I understand.
Okay, great. That's what we needed to know. Fabulous.
All right.
All right.
You have everything. I apologize. I'm from another funeral home, so I apologize to go back.
Okay.
So that's the one right there. I'm gonna give him he's right there. Give him the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
He's gone for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's really annoying.
There's something going on. It's an Easter thing.
You know the
They're following an Easter
It's an
bunny.
Easter bunny. Okay. All right. So you're going to go.
So he's going to bring the casket up. Once he's done, we're going to come back to bring you folks up to the side.
Okay. Very good. All right. Thank you very much.
So we can't even drive up behind them. Okay. Okay. I see how it works. Okay, great.
Right.
We can find everybody. All right.
Thank you.
You want to put a ribbon? I'm just going to give you the ribbon. And I've got the Kaddish cards. I'll just put.
All right. Here's the update, Rabbi. The new rules are that they are taking the casket up there and lowering the casket into the grave. We are not allowed to be there while they are doing that. They will then come back and get us, and we will go out to, they will bring us back to the grave site, and then we will have the rest of the funeral.
Okay, so are you watching from the car?
I am not allowed to be there for that. I just asked and was told I wasn't allowed to be there for that. I don't really understand why, because somebody else went. Right? Didn't we see somebody else follow out their hearse?
Maybe you can watch from afar, soon.
The guy who just made this decision is Lawson. Can you just get in the car, please? Okay, we're gonna follow the Jeep. All right, let's do this. All right, we're rolling. I got that. Oh, and Rabbi, I now have the Korea ribbon, which I will cut when I get home.
Okay. Some of them are self-tearing. You might be able
Okay.
to tear it now.
All right, and I've already said the prayer, right?
Mhm.
Up the ribbon. Yep, done. Torn. I'm gonna turn this around so people can see what it looks like here.
When they take your mom out of the hearse, I'm going to start reciting a psalm, okay?
We'll see if I can let you know when that is. We'll try.
Well, I'm watching the car because of the way your computer is situated.
Right. Okay. The hearse is, what you're looking at, that Jeep is not the hearse. The hearse is ahead of the Jeep.
Okay.
You have to put on your seatbelt.
Rabbi, do we know what cemetery this is?
I believe it's Cedar Park, Bethel, in Paramus.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, so we are, as I think you can probably see, we are quite a bit back from where the trucks are. I don't actually see the hearse. It's out ahead of us, but this Jeep here, his job is to keep us away for now. Lawson says they've opened the Hearst, Rabbi, so if you want to start reciting, you can.
Okay, I'm going to recite Psalm 16 in Hebrew and in English. Mirtam leDavid, Shomereni el ki chasiti bach. Amart l'Adonai, Adonai ata, tovati ba'alecha. Likadoshim asher ba'aretzema, v'adirei kol cheftzivaham. Yirbu atzvatam acher maharu, balasich niskei midam, uvalesah shemotam al sifatai. Adonai menat chalki v'chosi, ata tomich korali. Chavalim naflu li banimim, af nachalat shofra lai. Avarech Adonai asher yatzani, af lelot yiseruni chilyotai. Shiviti Adonai lenedi tamid, ki mimini balemot. Lachen samach libi vayagel kavodi, af bisari yishkon lavetach. Ki lo ta'azov nafshi lishaol, lo titen chasidcha lirot shachat. Todieni orach chayim, sova semachor panecha, ni'imot bimincha netzach. Protect me, O God, for I seek refuge in you. I say to Hashem, you are my God, my source of blessing. There is none besides you. My lot has fallen in pleasant places. Indeed, I have a good inheritance. I praise Hashem who has guided me. In the nights, God speaks to me through my conscience. I am ever aware of God's presence. God is at my right hand. I shall not fall. Therefore, my heart rejoices. My whole being exults, and my body rests secure. You will teach me the path of life. In your presence is perfect joy. In your right hand, eternal bliss. Mirtam leDavid, Shomreni el ki chasiti vach. Amart l'Adonai, Adonai ata, tovati ba'alecha. Likdoshim asher ba'aretz hema, v'adirei kol cheftzivaham. Yerbu atzvotam acher maharu, balasich niskei hamidam, uvalasat shemotam al sifatai. Adonai menat chelki v'chosi, ata tomich korali. Chavalim naflu li banimim, af nachalat shafra lai. Avarech Adonai asher yatzani, af leilot yisuruni chilyotai. Shiviti Adonai lenediv tamid, ki mimini balemot. Lachen samach libi vayagel kavodi, af bisari yishkon lavetach. Ki lo ta'azov nafshi lish'ol, lo titen chasidcha lerot shachat. Todieni orach chayim, sova semachot et panecha, ni'imot bimincha netzach. Sue and Steve, will they be doing the burial for you, or will they allow you to put some soil in with your hands?
Well, to be honest, they've all disappeared, so I think we're on our own here.
Okay.
And we have shovels.
We brought
Oh,
shovels.
you brought your own shovels?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you tell me can you folks
Yes.
see inside the grave?
We can see inside the grave. We see
Yes.
the box, the casket. So you can start shoveling.
All right, I'm going to put the laptop down where I think you're going to be able to see us. Let's see if this works. This is my grandmother, Beth. My mother's being buried in front of her, next to our grandfather, David. These are my father's parents. He's asking me if I want to leave the meeting, which I do not want to do. All right, can you see Lawson? I think
You can see Lawson, yeah.
Yes.
and you can see the gravesite, right?
We see the top part of the grave, yes.
All right, here we go.
Hatzor tamim polo ki kol derachav mishpat el emunah v'yein avel tzadik v'yasharu tzadik atar Adonai l'hamid l'chayot asher b'yadcha pikadon kol ruchot chalil l'cha zichronenu limchot v'yunaynecha b'rachamim aleinu pikuchot ki l'cha Adon harachamim v'haslichot Adonai Natan, v'Adonai Lakach, Yihi Shem Adonai Mevorach. V'hu Rachum Yechaper Avon V'lo Yashchit, V'yirba L'shiva Pov Lo Yirkol Chamato, V'yashov Hafar La'aretz Kishaya, V'haruach Tashuv El HaElohim, Asher Nitana. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. May Edith's soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal. Send comfort, Adonai, to those who mourn. Grant strength to those whose burden is sorrow. And let us say, Al Mekoma Tavo V'Shalom. 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 Shir lamalot esainai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Hashem oseh shamayim va'aretz al yiten lamot raglecha al yanum shomrecha Hine lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael Hashem shomrecha Hashem tzilcha al yad yeminecha Yomam ha'shemesh lo yakeka v'yareach balayla Hashem yishmorcha mikol ra ישמור את נפשך, השם ישמור צאתך ובואך, מעתה ועד עולם. Psalm 121, a song for ascents. I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from God, the maker of heaven and earth. Hashem will not let your foot give way. The one who watches over you will not slumber. For behold, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Hashem is your guardian. Hashem is your protective shade at your right hand. By day, the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Hashem will protect you from all harm. God will preserve your soul. Hashem will guard your going out and your coming in, for now and forevermore.
Thank you, Rabbi. So I'd like to show you what the grave looks like now with the casket. I don't know if you can see, but we've covered the entire casket and there's sort of a mound on top.
Okay.
Can you see?
Yes. So I could do the memorial prayer now, and then we could do the mourner's Kaddish, you and Steve and your dad.
That would be great. We've been told they will not come fill in the rest of the grave until after we have left.
That's okay.
All right.
So I'm going to chant the same memorial prayer that I did earlier with Mom's Hebrew name, and then we'll do mourner's Kaddish. So I believe you have a Kaddish card. Steve, do you have a mourner's Kaddish with you, or do you want me to put something up on the screen?
I have it, thank you.
Okay. And I don't know if Dad can hear me. Jerry?
Dad is disconnected now.
Okay. Turned off, yes. Okay, I'll start the prayer before mourner's Kaddish.
Probably stand up, right?
If you can, please stand up. Elo aslichot chanun v'rachum erech hapayim v'rav chesed hamtzeh haparat pesha v'hakravat yesha u'menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina B'malot kadoshim u'tehorim, kezohar kiyamasirim, et nishmat, etka bat Moshe v'Teofila, shehalacha li'olama. Ana bal harachamim, zacharala letova, kol zechuyoteh v'tzikoteha, be'artzot hachayim. ופתח לה שערי צדק ואורה, שערי חמלה וחנינה. בסתר כנפיך הסתירה לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים, את נשמתה, אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה. ונאמר Amen. Hashem, may Edith Ritz find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us say,
Amen.
Okay, mourner's Kaddish. Steve, I'm going to spotlight Steve now too. Okay. All right, so there's going to be a little bit of a lag because of the bandwidth, but we'll try to do this as much in sync as possible. The mourners. Yitgadal, Yitgadat, Shemei Rabbah, V'yamah, V'yivra, Chirute, V'yamlich, Machute, V'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chayei, Zechon, Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Uvizman, Kariv, V'imru. Amen. Yehei,
Shmei Rabbah,
La'olam,
Almaya,
Yitbarach, V'yishabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithajar, V'yitzaleh, V'yitzalal,
Shemei Kusha Rechu.
Ela, Kol Merchata, Shirata, Tushbechata, Vinechlata, Damiran, Ve'alma, Ve'imru. Amen. Yehi, Shlama Rabba, Shemaya, V'chaim, Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru. Amen. Oseh, Rabav, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael,
Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru.
Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru.
Amen.
Okay, I'm now going to, I'm going to unmute everybody so we can all say the traditional words of comfort to Sue and to Steve and to Jerry and the rest of the Mishpacha. Please repeat after me, those who are not immediate mourners. Hamakom, Lachem, Etchem, Toch, Har, Avelei, Zion, Yerushalayim. May God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem.
See you later.
Okay, this concludes the service. I'm going to mute everybody again because there's some background noise. If anyone would like to speak, to say anything to Susan,
I opened up the sliders by the porch, but I didn't.
Well, while we're waiting to see if anybody wants to move to say anything, I think I will just take my family, if you don't mind, on a tour here so everybody can see where everyone is. So, as I said, this is the Ritz family plot. This is Bess Ritz, my father's mother, after whom Ellen was in part named, Leah Bess. And this is grandfather David, after whom my son David was named in part. Here you can see the headstone that says Ritz. And then I think, yes, on the other side, here is the Wolf family. Interesting, there are 2 stones on the Wolf grave. I don't know why that is. And together here are Teofila. I'm not sure I ever knew her middle name was Sarah, so I just learned something. Teofila Sarah. And next to her is her husband Max. And then with them as well, aunt and great aunt Stella Voxel. They're all together. I did. They're in one of those bags. I'm not sure which. If you could look for them, that would be great. Okay. Lawson suggested I sit this still so that people don't get seasick. He has gone to the car. I brought some stones from my garden to leave on the headstones, and he's gone to the car to look for them.
Thank you.
Sue, we send love to you and everybody in the family.
Thank you.
Love, love, love for me. Much love. What a beautiful service. What a tribute to a wonderful, wonderful mom and grandmom.
Thank you. That's my Lawson's sister Sarah speaking.
North Carolina.
Lawson's mother speaking too. Don't leave me out. I'm there with you.
Thank you, darling. That's Lawson's mother speaking. So I'm leaving.
Thank you so much.
From our garden here. And from Stephen as well. And then on the other side, All right. Thank you, everyone, for sharing this journey with us and carrying us all the way through. Deeply appreciated, very, very much. And I think we've done it. Rabbi, thank you so much for bearing with us. I think you have yet a second funeral, all right? So, thank you.
We love you, Sue.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you too.
Well, everybody,
We
you
will.
all live long and blessed lives, as my mother would have said.
Amen.
Amen.
Safe trip home.
Okay.
Thank you all. Bye-bye. And thank you again, Rabbi.
My honor to know your parents. I'm blessed to officiate your mom's funeral. Wish it didn't have to be under these circumstances.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Much love.
I think we're supposed to leave first.
Thank you all so much for being here. Good to see your faces. Love to you.
Dolores Hines, were you able to join and hear okay? Okay. No, I think I would leave her.
Okay.
Thanks. All right, thanks. I think there isn't anybody left. Thank you all for coming. Anything you want to say?
Hi, Uncle Steve.
It was really nice seeing you.
Uncle Steve, and then a couple others, but I think it's mostly the Ritzes and Uncle Steve. So hi, Uncle Steve.
Hi.
Hi.
It's good to see you guys.
Good
You
to see you too.
Every time I see you, you're bigger and older, and it amazes me.
So are we.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure. This is a very beautiful funeral. Very moving. And grateful for it.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
We'll surely miss your mom, your grandmom very much.
You're in the picture, on the program.
I saw it. Yeah. Well, as long as I have you boys here, how about a really quick update on how you're doing?
Well, maybe we should do that on another, connect just a little bit again later, because there are a few
Okay.
other folks. And I think we're keeping the temples.
Oh, I
Zoom.
see. All right. So say goodbye. There's going to be a Shiva.
Yep.
You'll write more.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
follow up.
Well, we just learned that it's not supposed to start until after Passover. So.
Which is, you don't know. Okay. All right. Talk to you real soon.
It's
Bye.
the middle of the later.
I think we should go.
Bye.
Bye-bye.